7 a.m. on Monday, October 9th, nearly 4,000 workers at Mack Trucks walked out on strike. The night before, they voted down a tentative agreement with the company.
Agreements get voted down. It's part of the process. There's only one enemy in this situation, and that's the company, and it always is. You know, you've basically empowered the bargaining committee to go back to the table and demand more.
We had 2 informational meetings with the members to hear their voice and what their issues was with the master and the local.
Last year, we got killed with inflation. And I know that money is there for COLA. We got to get it back on the table.
You have to be secure not only in your work, but in your retirement too. And the extra $1,000 that they're giving us to 401k is not going to cut it.
We should be at 40 hours and that's it. Anything after that should be paid overtime. That's how it's been, and that's how it's been.
You send a powerful message. 73, not just in this facility, across the entire Mack Trucks facility, all facilities.
A lot of people are afraid to call off sick because we have a point system. Oh my God, I have so many points, I'm gonna get a day suspension or I'm gonna lose my job. That's wrong. People get sick. People deserve to have a sick day.
We would be in a lot better shape if we had cost of living adjustments. I don't think that ever should have been taken away. That's the protection that we need to provide for our families. You know, I have kids myself, so I wanted that to be in the contract.
And Mack can afford it. Mack Trucks is owned by Volvo Group. Volvo Group makes most of its money off of its trucks, including Mack. In the past 10 years, they've made $22.8 billion in profits. And they expect 2023 to be their most profitable year ever. And yet Mack workers are going backwards.
They're great profits. You know, the companies are making billions and they're just not sharing it with the workforce. 73% turned down the contract, 2,100 of them come back and say that COLA is their #1 issue. I don't see how they can walk away from it. We know where we have to go, and I feel we can get it.
You know, these workers haven't had a raise. Inflation is sky high. I get emotional because I'm no different than they are. I'm an auto worker. I'm proud to be an auto worker. From Shawn to me to the bargaining committee, we want the same thing as they want. We want a fair contract for a fair day's work for a fair day's pay for our members.
Mack workers don't have to settle for less while the company keeps making more.
Good afternoon, UAW family. Today we're going to take a closer look at where things stand in bargaining with the Big Three. In the past 24 hours, we've gotten new offers from 2 of the 3 companies. So despite all the bluster about how much the companies have stretched, there's clearly still room to move. But there's also a lot going on across our union, not just in the Big Three. This week, nearly 1,000 UAW members walked out on strike at 3 casinos here in Detroit as part of the Detroit Casino Council. During the pandemic, these workers barely got a raise, so they've launched the first ever wall-to-wall casino strike. Yesterday, we joined those members, along with Blue Cross Blue Shield UAW members on strike and Big Three UAW members on strike. Secretary-Treasurer Margaret Mack and Vice President Mike Booth told the crowd that this isn't just about one industry or one workplace. It's about the whole working class finally standing up to corporate greed. Sunday night, the master contract will expire covering 1,100 workers at General Dynamics in Region 1, Region 2B, and Region 9. At a time when there's endless money for war, somehow there's still no money for the working class. And shamefully, General Dynamics won't even agree to make Veterans Day a paid holiday, despite 25% of their workforce being military veterans. Last weekend, I went out to Pennsylvania and Maryland to meet with our nearly 4,000 members on strike at Mack Trucks. After voting down a tentative agreement by 73%, the members are ready to fight for more, and we've got their back 100%. Region 8 Director Tim Smith, Region 9 Director Dan Vicente, and myself went out there for strategy meetings with the membership and bargaining committees to talk about how we can do things differently, fight harder, and win bigger. The bargaining team met with Mack this week, and the company basically said they just wanted to rearrange the deck chairs and try to get a revote. But the members have already spoken. The council said no, and we expect Mack to come back with something real and quick. At ZF in Alabama, members recently voted to ratify a new agreement that will close the wage tier and grant more time off the job. These members stood strong on strike for a month and have a new contract to show for it. And just about an hour ago, our members at Thombert in Newton, Iowa have secured a tentative agreement. They've held the line since August 1st and will vote tomorrow on this deal. Congratulations to those workers on this important milestone. Meanwhile, we're still standing strong with our Region 9 members at Dometic and West Rock who have been fighting like hell for a fair deal. Just this week, Local 1391 members at CVR Nitrogen, a fertilizer plant in East Dubuque, Illinois, voted 88-2 to reject the employer's latest offer and walked out on strike. The employer recently decided to mess with the workers' 401k, and our members in Region 4 aren't going to take that lying down. They stood up and joined the picket lines on Wednesday afternoon. At the Big Three, we're now well over a month into our stand-up strike. Our members on the line, especially those at our first stand-up targets at Local 900, Local 12, and Local 2250, have been out in the rain, in the cold, living off strike pay, wondering about the future. I want to acknowledge the incredible courage and fortitude of these members and all those holding the line. Our ability to hold out, to hit the companies economically, and to withhold our labor, this is our leverage, and this is our path to victory. We have one tool, and that's solidarity. Everything we do, our picket lines, our rallies, our videos, and these Facebook Live remarks is in the service of building our solidarity and using it to win at the bargaining table. Let me tell you what the company's path to victory is. Fear, uncertainty, doubt, and division. Everything they do is in the service of fragmenting our membership. They want you to think, what if they really do close a plant? That's fear. They want you to think, do I really know where this is headed? That's uncertainty. They hope you're wondering, does my union leadership really have my best interests at heart? And that's the doubt. Every time these company executives open their mouth, it is to increase the fear, increase the uncertainty, and increase the doubt among the membership. They win when we lose our sense of purpose, when we lose our sense of unity. And I've heard some members asking, when will we vote on this? Some members think maybe we've gotten as far as we can get and it's time to settle. I want to be clear. The membership is the highest authority in our union. You will always have the final say. Everything we do is in service of building the strength of our membership and building a better future for UAW members and the entire working class. But when we vote, it will be from a place of strength. You don't make decisions on your future out of fear, uncertainty, or doubt. That's a recipe for disaster. That's what we've done for decades in this union. For years, we've been playing defense at every step and we've been going backwards. When we vote on a tentative agreement, it will be because your leadership and your council thinks we've gotten absolutely every dollar we can. We've looked at the company's proposals. We've costed their offer. And in my opinion, and in the opinion of the vice presidents, and in the opinion of your national negotiators, there is more to be won. One thing we've been hearing over and over from these companies is how they've offered us record contracts. They stole that line from us, by the way, and you know what? We agree. These are already record contracts. But they come at the end of decades of record decline. So it's not enough to be the best ever when auto workers have gone backwards over the last 2 decades. That's a very low bar. I also find it a pathetic irony that every time they make an offer, it's the best they can do. It's a record offer. And then 2 days later, there's a new record. What that should tell you is there's room to move. This week, while we were literally at the bargaining table, GM released a video. And in that video, a millionaire GM executive asked our members directly, with all that on the table, why are we on strike? Meanwhile, the next day, the wage increase goes up, the progression goes down, and the retirement money goes up. That's why we're on strike. Because these extremely profitable companies have more to give. Last week, we took out the biggest auto plant in the country. The brave members at Ford's Kentucky truck plant joined the stand-up strike on a moment's notice and delivered a serious message and a serious economic blow to Ford Motor Company. As we said last week, it wasn't just Ford who was going to get the message. It was Stellantis and General Motors as well. I'm happy to report that in the past 24 hours, we've seen serious movement from both Stellantis and GM. Meanwhile, Ford continues to stew about KTP and pretend they can't afford what we're asking for. On Monday, Bill Ford went to the Rouge to talk the same old talk about needing to stay sustainable and competitive. He said if the workers get our share of economic justice, he'd have to close plants like the Rouge. We took those comments seriously. For all their talk about wanting to invest in American jobs, they have the audacity to come to the Rouge and imply they might close it down while they make billions in profits off the products our members build there. It's never going to be enough for these people. We've taken cutback after cutback, done give back after give back over the past 20 years. And what do we have to show for it? 65 plants closed in 20 years. Real wages down 30% over 20 years. Jobs killed and standards gone. Bill Ford said it shouldn't be Ford versus the UAW. He said it should be the UAW and Ford against foreign automakers. I want to be crystal clear on one thing. The days of the UAW and Ford being a team to fight other companies are over. We won't be used in this phony competition. We will always and forever be on the side of working people everywhere. Non-union auto workers are not the enemy. Those are our future union family. Since the stand-up strike began, we've had thousands of non-union auto workers reaching out wanting to join our movement. So no, we're not going to partner with Ford in a race to the bottom. And we're not going to partner with the big three to match the low standards of the non-union automakers. Instead, we're going to organize non-union auto workers everywhere. Together, we're going to stand up and take on corporate greed. Right now, we're striking the big three like we've never struck before. Next, we're going to organize non-union auto companies like we've never organized before. And together, auto workers are going to fight to make sure that auto jobs everywhere are good jobs. Jobs that can sustain a family. Jobs that allow everyone to retire with dignity. Jobs that are essential to the green economy without sacrificing our union standards. So billionaire Bill Ford made his own speech this week, talking down to us and telling us what we should be willing to accept. Literally, the next day, the company made an astounding announcement. Ford Motor E Company said they were going to give an additional $600 million in shareholder dividends this year. That amount of money alone would amount to about $1 an hour raise for all Ford workers for the entire life of this next contract. Dividends are just throwing money at Wall Street. And I don't have to tell you, lavishing money on people who are already rich doesn't improve the business, and it does not improve the economy. It doesn't make Ford more competitive, and it doesn't secure a future for Ford. Investing in our members does all that. What Ford is showing us is that the money is there, they just don't want us to have it. They constantly make statements about a sustainable future, but actions speak louder than words. What's unsustainable is taking the billions we generate in profit and handing them directly to Wall Street. They're telling us there's no more money while they loot the company through the back door. So let's talk about what happened this week at GM Stellantis and compare that to Ford. With no new plants out, both companies put a lot more money on the table. That's because they know if they don't move, there will be serious consequences. But it's a balancing act. As we see at Ford, we took their biggest plant out, and they haven't come back with anything new. As I've said countless times, our goal is to get the best agreement possible, not to strike randomly just for the hell of it. Our strategy means we escalate if and only if we think it will win big. So let's look at where we are across the big three. Under wages, at all three companies as of this week, we have a 23% raise on the table. That's up from 20% just a few days ago and up from 9% when they made their first offer. The companies keep saying they hit their limit, and then their limit went up, and we think there's more ground to gain. On the wage tiers, at all three companies, we have killed massive wage tiers. This is a major win, and it's been a major priority. We believe in equal pay for equal work. At Stellantis, Mopar workers will make production wages. At GM, the CCA and GMCH will make production wages. At Ford, Sterling Axle and Rawsonville will make production wages. This represents huge raises for these members and will end the toxic wage tier divide among these members. Looking at the wage progression, we started these negotiations with a ridiculous 8-year progression. At Ford, we got down to 3 years where it was in the mid-90s. At Stellantis, they're still stuck on a 4-year progression. And at GM, they want the 2-tier progression with 3 years for all current employees and 4 years for future hires. Obviously, that's not going to fly. If Ford can do it, so can GM and Stellantis, and we are not adding a new tier. With cost of living, at Ford, we have won cost of living back to where it was in 2009, something we were told was impossible. At GM, we're really close with some tweaks left to make. And at Stellantis, we've still got a deficient COLA on the table that doesn't kick in for the first year. In regards to profit sharing, At all three companies, we've been able to beat back concessionary profit-sharing proposals. At Ford, we've actually enhanced it, and temp workers with 90 days will now be eligible. At GM, we've maintained profit sharing but added eligibility for temps with 1,000 hours on the job. At Stellantis, we've maintained but haven't yet won eligibility for temp workers. In looking at temps, we're fighting to end the abuse of so-called temp workers who make low wages and have fewer rights and little security. At Ford, we've raised the temp wage to $21 an hour and won conversion of all current temps with 90 days worked, or 90 days in. At GM, we've also hit $21 an hour for temps, with all the temps who have a year in getting immediately converted to full-time. At Stellantis, the temp wage is still at $20 an hour, and we're going to convert thousands of temps. At all three, we're still negotiating a pathway for future temps to get converted to end the abuse of these members. We're fighting hard to win language across the big three that will make sure that temporary work is just that, temporary. Looking at job security, one of our biggest proposals on job security has been the right to strike over plant closures. They can't keep closing plants without any consequences. At Ford and Stellantis, we've won that right. We will keep our jobs secure with the most powerful weapon we have, the strike threat. At GM, the company still won't grant it. Looking at work-life balance, at all three companies, we've won additional holiday, the Juneteenth holiday, and 2 weeks of paid parental leave, a first for our members at the big three. There's still room to grow there. In retirement, we know we need to fix our broken retirement system at the big three. All three companies are now offering a $3 increase to the pension multiplier and boosting the 401k through GM, although GM lags behind. Ford and Stellantis are offering 9.5% employer contribution to the 401k, and GM is offering just 8%. For current retirees, Ford is offering a $250 annual lump sum payment, and GM just a one-time $1,000 lump sum payment. Stellantis isn't offering anything on that front. The skilled trades tool allowance, all three companies are now at $1.50 tool allowance for skilled trades. So what's the punchline? This week, GM and Stellantis got the message loud and clear. They hurried to catch up with Ford. But GM in particular is worrying. They tell us they need a 2-tier wage progression because they expect to do a lot of hiring. At the same time, they threaten product and won't give us the right to strike over plant closures. I wonder how members at Arlington and Flint Truck feel about that. Stellantis has its issues as well. They're still at a 4-year progression. They're still at just $20 for temp workers. They've rejected all increases to retiree pay. I know plenty of members at Sterling Heights Assembly Plant and in Kokomo, Indiana, who aren't going to like that. And Ford is just waiting around, handing out money to Wall Street. I wonder what members at the Rouge thought of Bill Ford's comments implying they might close if we don't settle for what they've offered. The bottom line is we've got cards left to play, and they've got money left to spend. That's the hardest part of a strike. Right before a deal is when there is the most aggressive push for that last mile. They just want to wait us out. They want division. They want fear. They want uncertainty. And what we have is our solidarity. We have great negotiators. We have great staff, and we have the best members in the world. We have plans, we have strategies and tactics to keep winning at the table, backed up by some of the most badass unionists in the country. Poll after poll shows we have the overwhelming support of the American public. The U.S. Senate just introduced a resolution to stand with the UAW, and it has bipartisan support. If we stand together, if we have faith, we will win. Not just a good contract, not just a record contract, but a contract that turns the tide. A contract that finally starts to make things right at the Big Three and for auto workers everywhere. Last of all, I just want to remind you all of one thing. We said last week that we're not sticking to Friday expansions. We're going to hit when we need to hit and where we need to hit. This week, we saw the companies try to get in line with one another. Now we need to move that line across all three. Don't let them divide us. Don't let them scare us. And don't let them confuse us. Our cause is just, the money is there, and our strategy is working. Time is on our side, the American public is on our side, and the facts are on our side. So be ready and stay ready to stand up. Thank you.